Redditors from Lebanon or Beirut, how are you after the horrific explosion in the city? Just finishing an explosive ordnance engineering master's degree, I did some analysis on blast injuries, an essay on injury versus mitigation in blast wave propagation, and a couple of modules that assessed frag impact, chemical issues, body armor etc. I have a little more knowledge in this field than some, but no experience beyond design to speak of as yet, so please take this with a pinch of salt. If anyone here has been hit by the blast wave, even if you're 2 kilometers away and you feel fine, go and see a doctor and tell them you've been hit by a shockwave. Please, for the love of God. The number of people who suffer blast injury amidst everything else and it doesn't get spotted is exceptionally high. Frag injury is more common, blast injury is more deadly. Reasons a doctor/victim might miss the injury. A. Some symptoms look like shock, and normally these events elicit incidents of both, blast brain in particular. B. They're focusing on those with visible injuries. Blast lung just looks like a bruised chest if it manifests at all within 48 hours, sometimes it takes a week to spot externally and by then you need new lungs. C. Tinnitus you attribute to the loud noise may already be permanent. D. People think they're coughing because of dust, not because their alveoli are shredded and their lungs are filling up with blood. There are so many more but I can't remember them right now. Stay safe out there. My brother felt the shockwave 12 to 14 miles east a lot later than I did. I was about 2 miles south, but I managed to reach home without major injuries. I wasn't scared from a trembling building and shattered windows, not cause him so great, but I didn't process what happened, saw the mushroom cloud and genuinely thought we got nuked. I didn't understand the blast and what I went through before I saw all the videos online. I got extremely lucky. Edit. Thanks everyone for the support. I'm fine and managed to sleep a bit. Prayers go out to all affected more than me. Lived a kilometer away from the explosion. I left Lebanon 2 weeks ago to visit family. My house is completely destroyed and unlivable. My 2 closest friends were my roommates, one was in the bathroom when it happened, the other was outside walking back from work. They were sending me voice notes of what was going on while it happened. These 2 men are the strongest people I know, and getting messages from both of telling me to tell their families they love them in case anything happens shakes you. If they were in their rooms I can't begin to imagine what would have happened to them. They're both safe now in the mountains. Thankfully no one I know is dead, just lots of injuries. Edit. Guys, please, if you can donate to our Lebanese Red Cross, they'll need the help they can get. I got an award, but your funds are better used for the volunteers that commit their life for our health and safety. https://www.supportlurk.app/wire transfers/. We are physically fine, but we are definitely traumatized. This is unlike anything else and can hardly be described with words. The worst part was the uncertainty of what was happening. I live about 1.75 miles away from the explosion, and before the second impact the ground was violently shaking for a solid 10 seconds. Everyone felt like their buildings are falling down. And then the shockwave burst all the windows and doors open. All you could see is blood and all you can hear is screams. The scene really felt like it was from a post-apocalyptic film. Our people have been hit with so many heavy blows. We're known for being resilient, but this is too much for all of us. Just in a single year we've been through protests to overthrow the government, an economy crisis with prices of all products increasing uncontrollably due to our currency collapsing, a full-on pandemic with minimal planning by the government. And now with this explosion of ammonium nitrate that the government knew existed and knew how dangerous it was. We all went out to donate blood not knowing we shouldn't be inhaling the orange smoke because no one in the state cared to tell us. And to top things, hospitals that were accepting COVID cases and injuries from the explosion were collapsing themselves and all the patients had to be moved to other hospitals. We lack crisis management on the state scale and it showed yesterday. We all woke up today and were wounded. Hundreds are dead, thousands are injured and so many properties are destroyed. With our current economy crisis, there is no funding to rebuild what's been destroyed, the port included that the country relied on for most of its imports. Based failure of an economy. We're facing homelessness and shortages in food and fuel. We feel helpless as darker days come. Sorry for the rambling and sorry if I didn't make any sense. Lebanese but living in Australia. Auntie and uncle are in hospital with some injuries but are okay. My dad's auntie however is missing and she lived nearby in a building on one of the top floors. We are fearing the worst. Frown. Edit. Great news guys. I am just at my dad's house and he has told me that his auntie's daughter found her unconscious in her room. She is making a recovery in hospital. Her property has been destroyed. There is a bit of relief at home but we are still concerned for my uncle and auntie. Dad's sister and brother-in-law. My auntie's shoulder is broken and I am not fully aware of my uncle's injuries just yet. Dad is saying he is in pretty bad shape and requires surgery. My cousins in the villages are heading towards Beirut to visit them. I'll update this post when I find out more. Thank you all for the kind words. Please keep the people of Lebanon in your thoughts and prayers. They have been doing it tough for a while and this just doesn't make anything any easier. I'm posting this here for it to get more attention/visibility, but I've been reading a lot about people that keep seeing/replaying the explosion in their head. This is the time to try and avoid creating a strong connection in your brain by distracting your mind so that it doesn't have an opportunity to build these connections, which can then lead to PTSD and flashbacks. A study with Tetris and car crashes was very successful in doing this. It is also a technique used in dialectical behavioral therapy. Tetris and PTSD. Play Tetris. Play Candy Crush. Play something relaxing that will take your mind away from replaying the event. I'll post some articles on this in an edit. Hope this works for some of you. P's not a psychologist, but I have done research for myself. I also use Tetris for my BPD when my emotions are too overwhelming. It's an intervention that works. I have BPD and never heard of this, but that sounds really helpful. I will have to try that. If I'm losing it, I grab ice cubes in my bare hands, and clench them until they melt. Tetris sounds more fun. Edit: a lot of people have been asking me what the comment I'm replying to said. The commenter was sharing a link about how Tetris was shown to help some people with PTSD and trauma, and shared their personal experience with how Tetris helped with their symptoms of BPD. Hopefully this can help. Here's the link: https://www.nhs.uk/news/mental health/ can playing Tetris help prevent PTSD #::; text equals %22 Tetris %20 can %20 prevent %20 post %2 traumatic memories %20 during %20 the %20 following %20 week. The circumstances around this were quite odd. I was in the army and we were doing a live grenade throwing exercise and my fucking grenade ended up not working properly. So we followed the proper evacuation drill to get behind a more substantial blast shelter before EID came in to detonate the unexploded device. While we were all cowering behind the blast shelter like a bunch of pussies, this EID guy comes up in plain old fucking orange overalls, walks right up to the unexploded grenade and uses a stick to place the C4 and remote detonator over the grenade. He then calmly walks away to another blast shelter like everything is completely hunky-dory. There was a klaxon beep, a countdown, then boom. Then it just felt like a cold wind passed right through me. It's like what I would imagine a ghost walking through you would feel like, and it kinda shocked me. It felt very unreal and unnatural. Keep in mind we were squatting against the blast shelter wall, so it didn't really feel like anything was pushing against me and we were protected from most of the aerodynamic effects of the blast wave. It was just this cold sound wave that went through me. It's not like a gun at all. We trained and fired an assortment of weapons and none of them felt like the high explosive shock wave. Also, the grenades were frag grenades and felt nothing like the C4. The grenades were more like a loud crack followed by pellets or sand or whatever hitting the smaller blast wall we were behind. I live just 2 miles away from where the explosion occurred. We live on the 10th floor of a high-rise building. My siblings and I were sitting on the balcony before the impact. I remember clearly feeling the earth shake and us calling out that there was an earthquake. We rushed into our living room only to hear the loudest bang I've ever experienced. My mother, who had seen the entire thing happen from the kitchen window, was hysterical. The moments after the deafening bang were followed by a gust of wind that shook all our windows, slammed all our doors, and shattered our neighboring buildings' windows. My family was freaking out and unsure of what had just happened. The idea that this was the first act of war was on everyone's minds. My younger sibling experienced a panic attack and my mother was inconsolable. I clearly remember feeling nothing, my emotions were empty, but I felt my knees shaking. I was so focused on making sure my family was okay that I didn't give myself time to process. It wasn't until after I had gone to bed till I realized how bad it was for me too. I had a nightmare about it that woke me up at 4 a.m. and any creak or thump in the night had me flinching. My family and I are physically safe, which is why we're making a trip to donate blood for those who weren't so lucky. I wanted to end with the picture I took a few minutes after and also link the Red Cross for anyone able to donate. Because of the rising COVID-19 cases the past week, I asked my company yesterday if I could work from home for the meantime to keep my family safe and they agreed. The explosion happened at around 18:05, at which time I would still be in the office. My workplace building collapsed from the inside, and people rushed out while the building was falling on top of them. I can't shake off the feeling that I pretty much just escaped death, and it is surreal. My aunt's house got destroyed, and I had to go pick her up. There was shattered glass everywhere, dust, and debris. But the shit that gets you is how silent and loud, if that makes any sense. Being in the middle of it actually is. All you hear are sirens, echoing alarms and screams of people looking for each other. I am outraged because of this government and its incompetence. Not once did it manage to do anything good for the country. I wanted to go down and hang all of them on the streets, including their puppet master Hassan Nasrallah. Edit, just so you know, when the explosion happened everyone around the world was making statements and giving their condolences, even Israel. Our president? Nothing. Not even 14 hours after the explosion. Please do not give me awards. If you're feeling generous, donate instead to the Lebanese Red Cross. Thank you. Lebanese American here. I am currently in the US, but I have lots of friends and family there. In fact, one of my friends lives directly in front of where the explosion happened and my aunt is a couple more blocks away. Luckily, no one I know has lost their life due to the catastrophe, but several were injured, some badly. Others have lost their homes, as the damage is extensive. People all over the country are opening their homes to all those who lost their homes, others are planning to go down to Beirut and help with the cleanup. The government is so corrupt and are completely incapable of handling this. For the last 30 years we have had warlords and criminals in power. They line their pockets with government funds and from kickbacks from contacts that they award without a bidding process. This could have been prevented, but as usual the government did nothing but store 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate in a densely populated area. I think people are going to use their anger and outrage to remove every last member of the government and hold them accountable for their corruption and neglect. It makes me incredibly hopeful to hear that others are opening their doors to help others out and put a roof over their heads if their place was destroyed. Especially in a pandemic on top of all of this. Life will not return to normal, however that may look, for a very long time at this point. I'm so very sorry to hear about the negligence that caused this explosion. I can't fathom how tired everyone must be right now. I have a lot of family in Lebanon. Since it's during the work week they were all in Beirut. A number of my family members have been injured. Some minor and others a little worse, but from what I've been told nothing too serious. My cousin narrowly escaped serious injury when the shockwave hit him and a large sign came crashing down feet away from him. He got covered in glass but nothing too serious. A lot of my family members also have had a lot of damage to their homes as well. My closest cousin used to work at the port years ago and said the deaths would have been much worse had the explosion happened just 2 hours earlier when the port would have been busier. My family is understandably shaken up and couldn't even describe how they felt when happened and said it doesn't come close to anything they've ever experienced. I pray for everyone in Lebanon. With everything going on over the past year, this is absolutely the last thing they need. I'm still trying to find ways to support my family from home. There is only one main road standing between my house and the port. Thankfully, I left the apartment 10 minutes before to meet a friend, saw the fire, and thought it was something casual. Walked one street away, so one more layer of building away from the port, and sat and ordered some food outdoors. A few minutes later, we hear very loud rumbling, stand up to see what's happening from a better angle, and boom. The scariest moment in my life was seeing the blast come my way and not knowing what will happen next. My first impulse was to run away from buildings, my friend's impulse was to run into them to hide, so we ran in opposite directions. And then, glass and pebbles fell on me, and everything was covered in dust. I got minor wounds, and went with my friend to check on her boyfriend who lives nearby. Apartment was full of blood and we couldn't find him. Even in those moments I looked at her and said, "You just got the full Beirut experience," to which she responded, "Yes, I'm definitely ready to leave." She went to the nearest hospital to see if her boyfriend was there, and found out that he was transported to another hospital further from Beirut. I called my mom, and the moment she responds she is crying. She lives somewhat far but was worried about me and was glad I'm alive. I went back to check on my house, and the streets were like a war scene. People running everywhere and screaming, blood all over the place, rubble, and people fighting. Someone parked to get someone injured, and blocked the way on another car wanting to take someone injured to the hospital. The stairs in my building were full of blood stains and screams. Doors on all floors are out of place. Reached the house and it has literally imploded on itself as all the windows were closed. So, the house is gone. The building next to mine had 2 floors blown away onto the street, with electricity lines on the street amid the rubble. I also lost my car in the process as rubble fell on it. As I was packing the essentials to leave my house, the neighbor above me told me a lady in the building had her neck broken and needed assistance. We call for an ambulance but no response, So we call my neighbor's son-in-law. He says he's on his way. I take my stuff and leave for my parents' house. No cars anywhere near to take me. I walk for around a mile, and as I walk I see a beggar I always used to see nearby. He asks how he can reach North Lebanon where his family is, and asks for money to go there. Tells me his brother died as rubble fell on him from the building, and cries. I pass him some money, tell him we have all been horrified, and to take care. I find a taxi and go to my parents' house. They cry when they see me come in. Fellow Lebanese, Kuwaiti here in the news shocked and saddened many of us, if not all. I have lifelong Lebanese friends and spent the night checking up on them and their families. For those affected by the blast, the sensations you described took me back 30 years to the 1990 invasion. Several times I was caught in crossfire, a bombing of an ammo truck and the deafening hammering of those anti-aircraft guns. At the start we were less than 2 kilometers from the tank battle that occurred nearly all night at Bayan Palace. I still remember how it felt. I even was held at gunpoint, blindfolded and had the shit kicked out of me. I was only a 15-year-old boy at that time. I still remember and feel all that and more. Eventually, I overcame my PTSD, but it took me years only because I never sought any help. The threat of it destroying my marriage made me finally look for help and get that poison out of my system. I'm not 100% fine but a whole lot better and happier than I was before. Someone is chopping onions here? As mentioned among the comments, talking to someone about your experience helps. There's no shame in crying about it. I cried for years on and off, only because I kept it all bottled up. Let me tell you now, it's not a weakness to talk, cry or scream about it. It's therapeutic and this is what you need now, not later. Let it out, help others let it out too. If you need anyone to talk to, a shoulder to cry on or just a virtual hug, we're all here for you. Stand strong, Lebanon, Lebanon, heart.